This sector is now under my control. Stand down and prepare for Vega occupation.
Hello everyone, this is Captain Soban. Welcome aboard the Starship Normal Prize for another episode of Homeworld FX Galaxy Ship Showcase Series. Today we are taking a look at the Turanic Raiders, which is the last playable faction in Homeworld in FX Galaxy. There are two other factions that we're going to be taking a look at, the Kushan and the Bentuzi, but their AI is not implemented and they're not exactly in the skirmish campaign, so there's not much to really do about them, but I'll show them off just in case because they are still part of the mod. Anyways, let's take a look at the first ship that's in front of us. These are the Spies, which are your recon ships for the Turanic Raiders. They're known as the Ruffians, that's their technical term. They have the ability to cloak themselves, so they can hide themselves from sensors and whatnot, but they don't do any damage and they move pretty quickly. That's pretty much their advantage. They're used to spy on the enemy, hence their name. Anyways, we will go to our next one, which are the Fighters. These are pretty much your main interceptors. Their nickname is Bandits. These are the ones that you actually see in Mission 2 that kind of on the original Homeworld campaign that kind of like bash into each other. They kind of goofy off a little bit, and you can tell that their radios and whatnot are going off, which I love. But anyways, the Bandits, they're only good against other fighter class because they are strike craft. They don't have the firepower to take down anything other than fighters. Their main advantage is the fact that they have a large squadron. The fighters have 8 units per squadron. So if you use a large group of them and fight them against units that focus on only one target, these guys can do a really good job at destroying the enemy fighters. But if you use them against ones that also have large groups, or use ones against enemies that do a lot of anti-fighter capability, like assault frigates or gunships or stuff like that, then these guys will get decimated. Because one of their main weakness is the fact that they only have 800 health for the whole squadron, so it's 100 health per unit, so they're going to die pretty quickly. But the advantage is they're very cheap. So you can mass produce these guys quickly and overwhelm the enemy with numbers, if that advantage helps you out against the enemy. Next we have the Bombers,
Standing by.
which the Bombers are nicknamed the Bully class. These are your main anti-frigate and anti-capital ship fighter class ships. They have, I believe, they're plasma bombs that they launch. So they do a lot of damage against frigates and whatnot, but they are pretty much useless against other fighters. And again, they are very fast, just like their the fighter class brethrens. They have a lot of speed, so they can dodge the incoming turret attack that comes after them. But their main weakness is they have little to no health. They have 640 health for the entire squadron. That's less than 100 per ship. So once they get hit, they can get decimated very quickly. These guys are also quite more expensive than the fighter class ships, so I would definitely use these in only certain circumstances where having a lot of anti-frigate and anti-capital ship weaponry will help you turn the tide of battle. Other than that, keep these guys docked because they will die quickly to anti-fighter weaponry. And that's all of the fighter class ships that you can build in this version. So let's look at the Corvette class ships, which we have over here. Now, the one thing I have noticed about the Corvette class ships and the Turanic Raiders, they are a lot larger than the fighter class ships. You also only get 1 per squadron, so you definitely have to make these guys count. But anyways, the first one we have in front of us is the standard Corvette, which is a Corvette class ship equipped with some anti-fighter turrets. So it is good against fighting other fighters. It also has a decent amount of health, 2,200, and it's also a lot slower, 240 compared to like 450 that the fighters have. So it's a lot more vulnerable to anti-fighter weaponry and of course anti-Corvette weaponry. So you definitely want to make sure that this guy has some sort of escort to protect him if you're going up against a large group of anti-Corvettes. Because I don't think this guy is actually good against Corvettes. Yeah, he's only good against fighters. So yeah, you probably want to use these guys to assist the fighter class ships if they need more anti-fighter coverage. And then next we have one of my favorite ships of all time in the Homeworld universe, the Missile Corvette. The first time I saw this guy in Homeworld 1 on Mission 2 when he had to defend the mothership against Turanic raiders, I absolutely loved it. And I was like, holy crap, I wish we could build something like this. But anyways, the Missile Corvette is your anti-Corvette class ships, so you'll be using these against other Corvettes. He doesn't quite do enough damage because they're concussion missiles he launches to fight against frigates and above, and then I believe the concussion missiles are too slow to track down fighter class ships, so he's really only good against other Corvette class ships. We'll go ahead and just rotate around. So yeah, the Missile Corvette is pretty much one of my favorites. Oh, and the standard Corvette is known as the Thief, and the Missile Corvette is known as the Brigade class ship. So indeed. And next we have the Mine Layer Corvette, which is unique to this mod. I like how it looks like an industrial container. It's probably just full of mines and just drops them everywhere. Like, a lot of these Turanic Raider ships actually have a really cool industrial look to them. But anyways, the Mine Layer Corvette is designed to drop mines in an area. I don't think it can actively engage. Yeah, it just deploys mines, which are anti-frigate mines, so they can do a lot of damage against frigates and also capital ships if you have enough of them. But the mines are too slow to track fighters and corvettes, so he's kind of useless against raids. He's only good against capital ships. Which makes sense, because we got the standard frigate, or the standard fighter, the standard Corvette and the Missile Corvette for the other two roles. Okay, and next we have another unit that is unique to this mod, the Azrael frigate, the Azrael Attacker, known as the Poacher. Now the Azrael Attacker is very unique because one, it launches this gigantic torpedo, like, I don't know what you would call this, missile that's attached to it, and then runs away from combat. Because this ship is extremely vulnerable to damage, as you can tell, it only has 300 health, but if this missile impacts with the enemy, it does a devastating high amount of damage. Like it says 15,000 down here. It can easily one-shot a frigate, and it could 2 or 3 shot a capital ship, and it probably just takes a handful to take out a mothership. So these guys are extremely deadly. They do have a cloaking ability, and you can use to try to hide from the enemy sensors. But again, their main weakness is the fact they have like little to no health, because all of the money of these units go into this missile at the bottom that it launches to destroy the enemy. Now, a couple things about this ship. One, when it has a missile on it, it's very slow. Once it launches its missile, I think its speed like doubles, so it can get out there at super fast speeds. So once you make your attack, it's easy to run away. So the easiest way to prevent yourself from getting hurt by this is make sure you find it before it launches its missile. I kind of think of these guys a little bit as the cruise missiles from Homeworld Cataclysm, where if you see the cruise missile before it impacts, you're fine, but if you're too late, then you'll lose your ship. So these guys kind of had the same concept, where they launch their missiles and then they run away, and then the missile hits and does a devastating amount of damage. So these guys are unique to this mod, and they're unique to this faction, so pretty freaking cool. Use these guys right, you can easily take out a fleet, or at least weaken a fleet to the point to where it becomes your advantage. Okay, and that is all of the Corvette class ships. Next we have the frigate class ships, which first on our list is the Vulcan Frigate.
Receiving.
Which the Vulcan Frigate is your anti-fighter ship. It's also unique where it acts more like a Corvette, where it circles the enemy and just pummels them with their turrets. It has this large turret up here that does a massive amount of damage against fighters. There's another turret down here that does a massive amount of damage against fighters. And that's all it is. It's just a ship with a fast tracking, fast shooting anti-fighter weaponry. So anything above fighter class ship, this guy is vulnerable to, because the turrets don't do enough damage to hurt corvettes or frigate class ships. So that'd be your best defense against these, is use larger capital ships to take care of it. But this is your answer against a larger army of bombers. This guy is pretty cool. I believe his nickname is Brawler, which makes sense because he brawls enemy fighters. And then next we have an old classic, an Iron Array Frigate, which is your ion cannon frigate that basically deploys like a satellite, just like normal ion cannon frigates, and launches the ion cannon and does a devastating amount of damage against large capital ships. I believe that's all it really is. It's only good against frigates and capital ships, but since it only has one weapon, it's vulnerable to fast-moving fighters and corvettes. I do like the design of it though, all these like cool lights and whatnot. It can also cloak itself.
Going under.
So it can sneak up on an enemy and uncloak and just do a surprise attack against a vulnerable capital ship, like let's say a missile destroyer, something that's not good against capital ships but could be destroyed to benefit the battle in the future. Yep, I also forgot the back. But I think Iron Array Frigate is my favorite Turanic Raider frigate, next to the Missile Corvette. The Missile Corvette, I was just in awe because we couldn't build missiles until much later in the game. Okay, and next we have the Siege Drill Frigate, which the Siege Drill Frigate is really cool because it's your ship that captures the enemy vessels. But what it does is it rams into the enemy, drills into their hull, and then pours pirates into the enemy ship to try to take it over. I believe the Siege Drill Frigate has the highest capture speed of all of the capturing ships in this mod. I also like the fact it has this giant claw thing. It's cool. So it can like clamp onto the enemy, drill inside, and pour all the Marines or pour all the pirates into the enemy ship to take it over. So pretty freaking cool. This is known as the Pillager. But it does have some defense weapons on it, but I don't think that's, I think it's just some like basic hull defense. Or that might just be the damage it does when it tries to board the enemy ship. Because I don't actually see any turrets on it, so I don't think it can defend itself. But this guy is pretty cool. I fell for his trick a couple times already doing the skirmish campaign, and I need to probably use him more, so we can check that out more. But yep, that's the drill frigate. And next we have the Energy Jam Frigate, which is like a modified Iron Array Frigate without the ion cannon, and instead uses the power plant to launch some sort of a pulse, I think. Or let's see. Prevents nearby enemy ships from hyperspacing, cloaking, activating energy fields, and deploying gravity fields. So I think it just sends out doesn't actually show me like the range that it does, but it's similar to I was gonna say it's similar to the Progenitor ship, but I think that one actually buffs up the allies. This one disrupts enemies, and it protects the fleet from enemies hyperspacing on top of you and doing you know, invading you and whatnot. But I like how it's just a modified Iron Array Frigate with the power plant used to create this disruption field to prevent enemies from hyperspacing on top of you, and cloaking and all that stuff. So it detects cloak, it prevents enemies from hyperspacing, it prevents them from activating their abilities, and deploys a gravity field. So it debuffs the enemies, basically. That's what this guy's used for. Okay, and that's all the frigate class ships. Next we have our 2 capital ship class, which next we have our attack carrier, which the attack carrier doubles as a destroyer class ship and a carrier production facility or production ship. And what's cool about this is they've actually changed it in the 1.3.9 version, which is what we're looking at right now, compared to 1.3.7, which is what I played when I played the skirmish campaign a lot. And by what I mean by what they changed, and it could also be the fact that I'm just dumb and didn't actually realize this, but there are multiple things you can do with the attack carrier. The first thing is you can unlock your ion cannons and AA turrets to defend the attack carrier, and then you can upgrade it again to use the missile systems built into the attack carrier to do even more damage. You can also put a hyperspace module, so the attack carrier can hyperspace anywhere. You can build a maintenance module, which allows the junkyards to be able to repair your ships. So if in a certain radius, you can tell the junkyards to keep this ship alive, which the junkyards are your harvesters. We'll get to that in a moment. And then the raiding module, which allows you to prevent the enemies from harvesting nearby resources. That's a pretty cool thing. Because then I believe there's also a cloaking module that you can build on this guy. Nope, I'm thinking of something else. But you can move the attack carrier into an area. Like, let's say you want these resources here, you can move the attack carrier there, put that module on, and then if enemies come in to try to take those resources, they won't be able to take them until they destroy your attack carrier. So it's a way to help secure resources and make sure the enemies don't actually harvest them for you. Pretty cool thing. But anyways, the attack carrier is your ship that allows you to build fighters, corvettes, and frigates in the field of battle. They get launched right out here. It can also dock ships too. And it has the 2 twin ion cannons up here in front. It has a missile launcher somewhere, which I don't exactly know where that is. I think it's up here. Yep, here's the missile launcher. I think that's just a module. I don't know where the missiles actually launch out at. They're somewhere on here. And yeah, so you can only use like 4 of these modules, I think. So you can make this ship a utility ship to boost repair abilities and prevent enemies from harvesting somewhere. You can unlock all of its weapons to turn it into a powerful destroyer class ship, or you can enhance its production so it can build frigate class ships. So there's multiple ways you can use these carriers, which I like. There's a lot of versatility with these. Okay, and next we have our cruiser class. The only cruiser class the Turanic Raiders can build, the Heavy Guns Cruiser. Also, the carrier is known as the Rancor, which, you know, being a Star Wars fan, I appreciate that. And then the Ringleader is the Heavy Cruiser, because in the original game there was no Heavy Cruiser. The attack carrier was the biggest ship the Turanic Raiders could build.
Acknowledged.
But the Heavy Guns Cruiser is pretty cool because it has these couple gigantic... hang on, let me deselect the ship. Couple of these gigantic turrets, these gigantic kinetic turrets that it uses to shoot at the enemy that do a large amount of damage. Now, because of that, these turrets are slow tracking, so the Heavy Cruiser is really only good against large capital ships. He isn't really good against slower moving targets. So he has some trouble taking down the frigates because they're quicker. They're a little bit too fast for the turrets to take care of, and the turrets are slow moving too. So, or the turret, like the bullets it shoots are slow moving, so frigates can easily get out of the way. So he's really only good against other destroyer class ships and other heavy cruiser class ships. But the one advantage is he can also dock ships in too. So you can dock ships in here, so you can have like fighters and corvettes docked in, and then if you start getting raided by enemy fighters, you can launch them. I believe, no, I don't think the heavy cruiser can actually build ships. It can only dock them, just like how the battle cruiser on the Higaran side can only dock ships too. But yeah, that is the heavy cruiser. Now, the non-combat ships we have the Dustpen, which is your resource controller. It has areas for the harvesters to dock, which I think is just in here, and then it just you put it in an area to have somewhere for your harvesters to dock, unload their stuff, and then continue harvesting and doing what they're doing. And then after that, we have the cloak generator, which you can activate to cloak your fleet so that no sensors can't actually pick it up. And this cloak generator is mobile, so you can move it anywhere you want. I think, yeah, you can move it more than once, which makes sense. So yeah, there's not much to really say about that. I believe this is the cloak generator that the Titan uses in Homeworld 1. Or it might be like a modified version of it. Alrighty, and now the last thing I think we need to see are the Junkyard Dogs. Oh, and the mothership, we still need to talk about that. Here are the harvesters.
Let's take it back.
It's currently docking into the carrier and harvesting some more.
Roger.
But these are the Junkyard Dogs. I like how they have like little claw things that they use to like gather materials from the asteroid. Do they animate? Oh yeah, they do. Cool. And now one last thing, actually two more things, because I forgot about the resource station, but we'll be talking about that here in a moment, is your outpost. Now the outpost is your mothership, basically. So if you lose the outpost, it's not a big deal. You can rebuild the outpost later, but a lot of your facilities are built into the outpost. And you can have more than one of these. I think you can have like 3 of them. I just only built 1 for the showcase. So there's nothing too fancy other than the fact this builds most of your ships. So your fighters, corvettes, your capital ships, harvesters and whatnot. But one major difference that they did, actually we'll get to that in 1 second, because the last ship we need to show off is the recycling station, which I think of this more as your research station. It can build basic fighters and corvettes, but it's also used to rebuild your outpost if you lose one of yours. It's also used to upgrade and get new research and going and whatnot. And it can also have a couple defense stations or defensive weapons on it to protect it against small raids.
Awaiting orders.
But anyways, let's talk about the research stuff now, because that is one thing that has changed since 1.3.7. Before, it used to be where you had all of your facilities built onto your outpost, kind of like how the Vega has all of the facilities built on their motherships. But they've changed it this time. So for research, you start off building or for technology, you start off building your strikecraft facility. And then after that, you build, I believe it's your light weapons module, then your heavy weapons module, then you build the research station, or the recycle station, get your frigate refitting center going, and then after that, you can come back here, build your capital ship facility, and then your combat ready module, which builds your heavy cruisers. The combat ready module also affects your carriers, because with that, then you can upgrade your carriers to actually you just need the light weapons module and capital ship facility for the first weapon enhancement, and then the combat ready module for the second weapon enhancement, and then you can also need it for the raiding module. It's okay. There's still a couple other upgrades, but a couple of the big upgrades are your attack carrier. You'll need the combat readiness module, and I think these have always been like this. I just never noticed it before. Anyways, another difference that what it used to be is you would build the light weapon module and heavy weapon module on your recycle station, and you can only choose one.
Confirmed.
So it was an option if you wanted strikecraft, or if you wanted standard corvettes and missile corvettes, or if you wanted bombers and mine layers. So it used to be to where you had to choose between them, but now you can build them both on your outpost. Which I like that change. That change makes a lot of sense to me, because the Turanic raiders were really difficult to play because you would have to choose between those two modules, which would make it to where you couldn't build all of the stuff that you wanted to make, and then you had to make sure that you were really sneaky and try to work around not actually having those modules. I like the fact that they made them all universal. And another difference that they did is before you only used to have the heavy gun array on the outpost. These are anti-frigate weapons you can put on your outpost to defend it. But now they made it to where you can have an AA turret array, which is anti-fighter weaponry or anti-frigate weaponry on your outpost. I like that change. That adds more diversifying, that adds more options and whatnot to what you want to do. I don't know if you can actually... yeah, you can actually sell them. So if you see a large group of frigates coming in, you can quickly sell the AA turrets and then build the heavy gun array, which is pretty nice.
Reporting.
And then the recycling station also has the Phoenix AA turret, which it always had, and then a heavy gun turret. So you could put one anti-frigate weapon on it, or you could put one anti-fighter weapon on it to kind of have it help defend itself. But you can't have both. You can only have one or the other. Anyways, I think that's enough talking. I think I covered all the points of the Turanic Raiders, the differences between 1.3 and 1.3.7 and 1.3.9. For those of you who are watching the FX Galaxy series, you'll notice those differences. But, so to finish this off, I will kind of give the difficulty rating for the Turanic Raiders. For me, this is probably the hardest difficulty in the mod because it's completely opposite to my normal playstyle. I usually play defensive and protective. This one you have to play aggressive and sneaky in order to, raid the enemy and take advantage of the fact that your ships aren't as powerful as the enemies. Because I don't think you build super fast like the Titan, and you're not super powerful like the Vega or Progenitors. So there's a lot of different strategies you have to do in order to become really good with this team. If you're the type that's really aggressive and is good at sneaky, this will probably be medium to easy, like easy medium within that range. Within that range of difficulty. But anyways, I think that's going to do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave a like if you did. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. And I will check you guys out in the next video. If you want to check more of my stuff that I do have a second channel called Captain Sopan's Other Games. Link will be in the video description, where we're playing Tales of Arise, a fantastic RPG. A fantastic story-driven RPG, which we're almost done with, and I'm so happy because there are other projects I want to do on that channel. Anyways, before my voice gives out, because we're talking for 26 minutes straight, hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, this is Captain Sopan signing out.
This is the Garden of Kadesh. For 13 generations we have protected it from the unclean. If you have come to join me, welcome you, and will spare you your ship until all have disembarked. If you have come to consume the garden, you will be removed at once. What are your intentions?